It is your girl Pam with Twin Sooner Taps. I have a really cool guest on today. As you know, a lot of our content, it's heavy, it's hard, it's deep, it's fun, it's all over the place sometimes. But one of the big things that I wanted to do and I want to do on this podcast is to bring people on that represent organizations, but good quality people who I actually am really close to or have really deep connections with or have personal encounters with. We don't just invite anybody on the show. That's not what we're about, because we don't know who the hell we're going to get and we don't want to scare anybody off. So with that, I want to introduce my guest. He is, if you've heard of us talk about the Adaptive Training Foundation, the first time I met this guy, I actually thought he was David Vobora, the owner of ATF. But it turns out he's actually his little brother, not biologically, but he's damn near his twin. So I want to bring on Jason Dickens. He has quite the background. He is a Texas boy, or man, I should say. But let me tell you, this guy, his heart is something fierce and one of the biggest hearts I've ever seen. So, Jason, thank you for coming on.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm glad we're able to make a workout and do a little Zoom action. I'm excited.
Me too. I mean, spend the past half hour trying to get your pretty face on the show because that's important.
Well, I mean, I don't blame you there. It's the hair. It's you gotta have it to get the views.
So if you're on YouTube, check it out. If you're not, go to my YouTube channel so you can see him. David has a nickname called Thorgeous because he looks like Thor and he's gorgeous. So somebody pieced that together. It was hilarious when I first heard that. And I have to say, you're not that far behind, especially with that Rico Suave hair, that pretty hair that you have.
Well, he has a few more years on me, so I got the better looks going than he does. That's for sure.
I'm not going to say anything about that because as a girl, I'm like, I think all you guys are very handsome. Let me just say that. And y'all work out, which is even better.
It's a win-win.
It really is, which is why y'all need to get to ATF quickly. But anyhow, Jason, I asked him to come on the show more specifically because he has been working with or volunteering with the American Warrior Association. And if you don't know what that is, I will be letting him tell you what it is. But I'm gonna read y'all's mission real quick and a message that off of your website verbatim because I don't want to screw it up. Their mission is to honor the military, veterans, first responders, and our families by preparing us in mind, body, and soul for a life of purpose that contributes back to society. Okay, but their message is what sold me. We follow the intuitive American sense to serve, protect, and care for others. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Excuse me. So before we get started, could you let my listeners know just a little bit about your background? I know you're a West Texas boy. Middle of nowhere, really. West Texas. And I'm glad you got lost and found your way over here. Because you have been every time I see you, I smile. And I can't help but give you a hug, and just your energy is super cool. So just a little bit about you and how you got connected with these guys, and then, of course, ATF, if that's cool.
Yeah. So I grew up near San Angelo, Texas, which is where I grew up was about 4 hours west of Fort Worth. So we grew up on a ranch out there, and then went to Texas A&M. Took 6 years to finish my undergrad, so that was exciting. And amongst all that, I've done a lot of elk and mule deer. I'm a hunting guide for elk and mule deer up in Colorado and some other states. And with that got me involved in the hunting industry. And through some connections in the hunting industry, I ended up meeting our executive director for the American Warrior Association, Will Spencer. He was 20 plus years in the teams, Navy guy. And back in 2018 and 2019, he asked me to come help with some wilderness programs that he was beginning with his nonprofit, the American Warrior Association. So I hopped on board, not really knowing what I was getting myself into, and just knew I could survive in the wilderness, and knew horses and fishing and hunting and some mountaineering stuff. And that was back in 2019. And now this is our fourth season. Now the director of men's programs. So I head up all the men's programs for the for the AWA, and it's very very fun, exciting, and I get to use a lot of my natural skills I have just through the mountains and mountaineering and kind of that ruggedness to serve members of our military and first responder community. And out of that, we got plugged in with Adaptive Training Foundation. They sent some guys up and met David and met Colin and a lot of the other guys. And that turned into me coming to the gym and just helping out and just using some of my skill set there as well. And just getting plugged into a great community. And that's one of the reasons that we're talking. I've moved up to the DFW area to base out of there just because of the community aspect. And I still go and do my wild stuff and live in a tent and under a tree. But especially the ATF community and the AWA community, I mean, it's solid people, and you need that community just to function even close to normal. So,
well, before we go deeper into the organization, I want to back up a little bit because you said you hunt elk, deer, and because PETA's going to get on my ass, which I really don't care, but I need to put it out there. Jason is one of a few people that I know, and maybe you can explain it better, but when you hunt, there's a purpose behind it. It's not a trophy hunt, which if that's your thing, more power to you. I don't really care for it, but hey, you do you, boo-boo. But you guys, you literally, and I know this because I've received meat from you, elk meat and deer meat. Guys, Jason, you go up into the mountains for elk. And the whole point of you, quote unquote, killing this animal or sacrificing its life is so you can put food on the table for families. Am I right? Or is there something more
yes,
to
other
it?
families in my family. So we eat a lot of, I have elk, bear, sika, some axis, some whitetail, and hog all in our freezer. So that's what we'd eat. And usually supply is overabundant, and that's whenever I'm able to share with my friends. So, yeah.
Yeah, so this isn't about, hey, we're just going to go do it because it's hunting season and it's something cool to do and bonding with the guys. No, there's a purpose behind it. And I used to be like I can't hurt animals, and I still can't. But if you need me to field dress it, I'll do it. If you want me to eat it, hell, I'll even eat it. But here lately, I've learned to appreciate what you do and what Derek does, one of our buddies. And I'm just like, man, I have been the recipient of that extra meat, that gift that you call it. And I want to applaud you for it because I know hunting can get like a bad rap. And I just wanted to clear that up really quick, that you're not that guy.
No, it's fun to be able to combine that efforts with, yes, it is fun. It is good community. And like, even sometimes I'll go out by myself, but it's fun to be able to have that challenging opportunity, especially the challenge that is bow hunting and archery, which I very much do. And a lot of my stuff is with a bow. And, one of the rewards of that, if not the main reward, is that food. And, of course we take care of the animal. Like I have quite a few mounts and rugs and stuff like that, but, there's a story that goes with that. And there's also a story of knowing, there's a lot of people that don't like bear meat. There's a lot of people like here in Texas, a lot of people don't like aoudad meat. And I eat both of them. And, even a lot of people don't like pig meat, and pig is delicious. Whenever our freezers get full, I love just sharing it with people. And I know some people, I've heard the argument before that you shouldn't kill more than you can eat, but not everybody's meant to kill, but everybody likes to eat. So we got to make sure everybody's tummies are full. So,
yep. And I got to tell you guys, Jason rolled up to the gym one day in his truck with a deep freezer in the back. Literally, like by the time I got to it, almost all the meat was gone, but you gifted us with bear meat, deer meat, elk, and I still have plenty in the freezer, and that was a few months ago.
Heck yeah.
So I'm just like, hell yeah. But I wanted to hit on that because you said, the foundation, they're really utilizing your skill set from hunting and whatnot. And you sent me a video of actually the guys from the gym, a lot of them that went up to the American Warrior Association and benefited from that. And I heard Derek's story when he went to go visit. So could you walk me through the process of like a group gets there? What's that look like? and how, from when they start to when they leave and what that looks like on the flip side of being with you guys for as long as they are for that. For that.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like a lot of times I'll watch like those videos I sent you and hearing like, especially a lot of the guys up there at the gym, just hearing kind of the stories a year or two after and just like the impact it's had. From hearing those stories, you would think that we're serving up some type of crazy 5, 10, whatever, 12-step plan that get healed in 20 days or like are anointing people with like special water and all their stuff goes away. And I mean, really what it is just getting away from the distractions that is society and like just coming into nature and coming into the wild and like being wild and encompassing and like enduring through some of that hard stuff in the mountains. And in doing that, you figure out just how simple life really is. And a lot of times I tell guys a lot of our issues, like especially you look at fear and anger and even anxiety and depression, usually those issues are because of a reaction to something. So we get depressed because like bad stuff happens in life. I mean, even if you don't serve, you saw bad stuff that happens to you. Mm-hmm. And then whenever you do serve, it's compiled and there's just a force multiplier that goes like crazy. But in the day, like there's something that we have reacted to that is just magnifying. And once we learn like we can control those reactions to a point, there's sometimes that there's some chemical imbalances that like you do need to seek help. You do need to go to like a professional counselor. You do need to get medication. And like us as an organization definitely tell guys that, hey, like if that stuff's been prescribed, like we don't want you just solely relying on that medicine, but we definitely believe like in the power of medicine. And like we are a faith-based organization and our programs are faith-based, but I always tell guys that, hey, there's other ways that you can heal. Like you don't want to go too far down that road, especially if you're a Christian like me, but there's other ways of like finding your Zen and stuff like that I'm not studied on. But it's a multifaceted approach to get these, I guess, core issues that a lot of our servicemen and women find each other with. And so whenever guys come out, it's really just kind of the simple approach where you get a group of women who are coming out for a week in the mountains. And I know as well as you do, like I don't, especially for our men, I don't overburden them with like prep work. So like they're already sacrificed and they're already entrusting the American War Association a week of their time. And like, that's a pretty big allotment of time. And so, we found that usually we have a dropout rate of like 10 to 20%. And so I'm like, all right, like guys need to get out here. And so we don't overburden them with prep work. Like, hey, you don't have to read all this stuff before you come. You can, that's great. But it has no implication of what you'll receive once you get out there. And then once you get out there, it's really just, you need to tell your story. You need to understand that, for one, your story is a weapon, and those things that you're bearing down deep and that you think are the hurts and the pains in your life, if you go and tell a trusted resource, I know for me and a lot of other guys, all of a sudden what you think is like your deepest, darkest pains and your deepest, darkest hurts, it whenever brought to light, you're like, oh, that's really not as bad as I thought it was. And so us as an organization, we try to dig in deep and just get guys to talk like, hey, we want you to talk about all those feelings. I mean, if you're struggling with suicide, depression, whatever it is, because all those things that we keep on lying to ourselves, and a lie that's believed as a truth long enough will affect us if it was true. And I mean, I know the process well. I'm just going through and how it works. And like, I still deal with stuff to where like, I'll hold it in and like, I know it's a lie, but I just don't go and tell people. And man, it's like the easiest thing or the simplest thing that just starts burdening up. And So the mountains give us the chance to do that. We're away from society. We're away from phones. We're riding horses. I mean, we're looking at the Rocky Mountains, and just really give guys a chance to tell their story, and then walk them through, okay, are we like, if there's fear and anxiety, this is how we overcome fear and anxiety. These are the steps that we need to take. And we're not a fix-all for all the problems. Like, some guys come here and they get a lot of stuff out, and some guys come here and barely get anything. But at the end of the day, what you're going to get out of our programs is what you put in. If you come expecting us to do all the work and you don't do any legwork, like, you'll have a great time, but the purpose and the reason that why you're there isn't accomplished. So it takes us as a team, with our staff and our volunteers, teaming up with guys who come out. And I mean, we're all pushing forward, and it really comes down to, it's just simple stuff, but we just have to take the time to look at it and address it. And we have to love each other. And it's easy to do in the mountains. Like, you get up there and there's no traffic. You're not yelling at people. And say you ride a horse for 3 hours and you go fish. Like, it's pretty easy to see God and like, oh, well, my life's not that bad there. But then it's like, well, hey, once you get home, like, all those stressors of life are going to hit back. And so after our programs, we're creating like a post follow-up on guys who have come through our programs before, come back and volunteer, and then help head up some of those efforts. Like, okay, like, you come through a program, we'll stay with you. We'll talk with you. We're not going to be in your ear every day. We're not going to be there every week, or maybe on a bi-weekly status, but we're always there checking in, letting you know events that are coming up, so that you can stay plugged in. And then the next year rolls around, you can come and give back and serve and help out your other brothers and sisters who are going through the same things. And a lot of these issues, they never go away. Sometimes they get better, but as soon as they get better, the devil finds another door for it to come in. Mm-hmm. And we focus on the identity, the soul, the past, and relationships for our warriors. And like myself with the organization, we feel that those things are very important, and definitely just are in everyday life. I mean, your past affects what you do now, and your soul. I mean, if your soul hurts, you're gonna hurt yourself, other people, and it's just not gonna be a good thing. And your identity and just how you see yourself. And if you see yourself as a piece of trash, that's how you're gonna treat yourself. And like, for one, especially if you serve, you're not a piece of trash. Like anyone who's signed that dotted line, anyone who's a firefighter, or a policeman, or has served for our military, like, I tell them, like, you signed up and like, you're willing to die for like random people, like random Americans and people that aren't even Americans. Like, that in itself is like a huge identity piece. Like, if you ever have any identity crisis, like, there's hope in that, and that you're willing to sacrifice so much, and especially for those who have sacrificed it all. I mean, the identity that we have is everything. And if we see ourselves in the light that like the enemy wants to see us, then we're gonna struggle. And so we really go and dig in and dig into what the Bible says. Okay, this is what our identity is in Christ, and this is your identity as a warrior. This is your identity as like an American. And then relationships are everything. I mean, if you don't have good community around you, you're going to go in that deep, dark spot. And relationships with your family, relationships with your spouse, with your friends, and even goes deep, your relationships with your work. I mean, relationships are everything. If we don't know how to manage those, and if we don't know how to manage the relationships that are closest to us well, we're going to have issues. So those are kind of the four main components that we look at. And we do that through just mountaineering. We go fishing, horseback riding, hiking, and just spend time around the campfire and just getting guys just to tell their story. I mean, it's something that the less I have to say and the more that just naturally comes out with guys who, someone who's hurting, who's telling their story, and we'll have 8-10 other guys there. Like, there's someone else who's like, oh, I can add in on that and I can help you with that because I've been there. And because at the end of the day, pain is pain. Like we all experience pain,
Right.
and it's experienced through different perspectives, and especially in the light of war, the light of life and death stuff that first responders go through here, and the perspective of pain is what makes us feel like alienated, to where we think like, oh, this pain I'm feeling is I'm the only one who feels this way. And I've talked with guys who are twice my age, and like we're feeling the same pain, like we're feeling pain from like our childhood, and or like stuff that I feel from like they're still struggling with, and I'm just like, who am I as someone like twice their age to tell them what to do? But at the end of the day, it's like, hey, I've gone through this pain. Yeah, I have my own different pains, but I've healed from it. Let me help you and talk you through this process, and that has helped me. And so that's where for me, like this, just helping out with these guys. I mean, it derived from like a place of pain. Like I've been through a lot of pain in my life, and like I know what it feels like to be in pain. I know what it feels like to be depressed, and the anxiety and the fear. And mine isn't directly service related, but even that brings a different perspective to stuff. But I know how to heal from that going to the mountains. And so it's interesting just how in my like own personal life, how bad things that have happened to me allow me to do good things for other people. And that's what I'm able to do, like through these programs with American Warrior Association. And even it would just get to be a small light in a dark world, and helping these guys and show them like stuff isn't complicated. Like we don't need we don't need to multitask it. Like there's a term about like monotask. Like we can't look at all of our issues as this huge thing that's just burning us down. Like, hey, let's just focus on the first one. Mm-hmm. And if that takes us 5 days just to get over one thing, like that's where we'll work on. And then once you leave, like, hey, we're going to keep on working on the other ones. And, because at the end of the day, pain is pain, and pain hurts, whether it's big or small. I mean, and it really is amazing what happens in the mountains, and it can be complicated at times. Probably the more complications we have are the dang horses. I mean, those things are ornery, and they're good mountain horses. But I know a few of the ATF guys can tell you how they've run them through the trees and all this stuff. But yeah, it's taken a simplistic approach and showing others love and showing others that we care and that we're there to listen, and that, yeah, we know some things and we know how to help through these situations, and we can go step by step on things. But a lot of times it's just being there for your brothers and being vulnerable, and then having them build you up, and then continuing that after the program. That's the key.
You brought up something kind of cool, the horses. So
yeah.
What a lot of people don't know, and what many people probably do, I got introduced to equine therapy a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And what I didn't know is that the horse will, whatever you're displaying, the horse is going to basically like call you out on it and display what you're hiding. So it's funny that, like if you're anxious or this, like the horse is going to basically tell on you. Like there's no hiding, because the horses have that sense, and probably more than I do when it comes to that. But I know a few equine therapists, they use a lot of, that's what it is, equine therapy. It's therapy through horses. Mm-hmm. I find it odd that, not odd, but kind of a cool coincidence, if you will, that you got to ride horses up the mountain, but in the same, you guys probably did it for a reason. Because these horses, like if you're not in a good place, before you can even mount that horse to get up to the mountain, you might already have to have things you need to start working on.
It's something too, where if you get thrown out of your comfort zone and you get pushed physically, you're gonna open up a lot easier on the mental and spiritual side of things. Yeah. So whenever you're getting pushed physically, and you're having to put so much, and especially like most people have never ridden a horse in the mountains, and so all of a sudden you're just, and it's not a dangerous thing. There is some danger involved, but all of a sudden it's just you're using new muscles. I mean, you're way up high, and you're entrusting this animal with your life, basically. And then it just gives you a new, like another perspective of like, oh, there's a different way to go up a mountain. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, horses are just, they can be pains in the butts. I've dealt with them a fair share. And nothing's worse than like 2 or 3 in the morning having to mess with them because their ornery and run off but yeah, they definitely do serve a purpose, either through like a direct purpose like equine like therapy, or just, hey, we're gonna go ride a horse today, and we need it because we have to go to this mountain, so just hop on a horse and we're gonna go, and like indirect. But yeah, they definitely do play a big role in a lot of guys. Like, to me, it's just riding a horse. Right. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the background that goes on with these horses that even a lot of the guys don't even realize, and I don't realize. Like, guys will have to tell me for me to actually remember the impact that horses can have, and but it's really cool.
I love that. And one thing I want to kind of clear up, or maybe help the audience or the listeners, whoever's listening to this, if they're like, you know what, I think my dad could benefit from this. I think my husband and it's not even just guys. It's not just men, guys. There's women and there's family. You just introduced a family one. There's quite a few different groups that can apply and get connected. But I want to hit on something it's just there, right? And it's about God and the belief in Jesus. And a lot of people aren't believers. And hey, I think I respect you if you're not. You know, we're all trying to get to the same place, in my opinion. I'm going to love you where you're at, whether you believe or you don't. How would you present this to somebody who's like, man, I really want help, but then they're going to use that as literally an excuse to not even get connected because it's a God thing and I don't believe.
Yeah.
Like, okay, dude, get out of your way and just listen to what they got to say. So what would be your
pitch?
I
actually had an email. I was a week or two ago of a past participant, and I was asking some guys to come out, and he emailed me back. He's like, hey, dude, like, this stuff really did a lot for me, and I'm all about the organization. He's like, I don't know if my view of God is like what you guys are looking for right now, like as a volunteer. And I told him, I was like, hey, like, let's hop on a call and just see where you're at. And if your view of God and like your just where you're at spiritually isn't, and especially if you're not comfortable where you're at and you don't think you'd be fit like as a leader with this certain aspect of our organization, I'm like, hey, we got other stuff. We got other stuff that isn't necessarily a faith-based organization. Like, we're doing stuff with a marathon coming up, and we're gonna go to events and just have a booth there that if you're not necessarily comfortable with having God behind things, I mean, there's other ways that we can help people. But a lot of it is it is faith-based, and Jesus Christ is Lord of my life, and he has saved me, and I continue to follow him. But I tell people, I'm like, man, I'd rather have someone who's brand new to it or someone who doesn't believe, because what happens up there, I could go through and I could talk to a guy, and I can never have to once mention the Bible. I never have to once mention God or verses. But my love for people and like the love that he has given me shows to other people. And there's a lot of ways that even you look at science of how to heal, like the science of healing, and a lot of that aligns with what the Bible says. And so even if you're not directly, or even if you're not a Bible fan, or you're like, well, God can't heal me, but I need to get healed. Like, I would challenge them to look at some ways that now I would say that there's a lot of misinterpretation of what the Bible is and what the church is, and there's a big reason a lot of people don't go to church, and there's a big reason a lot of military guys and first responders who are a little rough around their edges don't go to church. And I'd rather have guys come out who are their real selves, who if you cuss like a sailor and that's who you are, like, I'd rather you be the real you. Like, I'm not looking for someone who shows up who's like, oh man, I'm worried about being this godly person, and I'm not, but I'll just fake it whenever I'm there. Like, we had one guy who was basically an atheist who came, and like he learned things. We didn't convert him from him being an atheist, but like, hey, the church isn't supposed to just involve people who go to church. We're not supposed to just be with believers. Like, we're out there well, especially with, I mean, we're not just going for, oh, veterans and active duty guys who are saved. Like
Right.
we don't care where you're at. Like it's all of the above. And um, we're not there to preach you. We're not there to tell you that we're the best. We're not there to tell you that God's going to smite you if you don't become a believer after 5 days. But we're just here to tell you, like, hey, we love you, and if nobody else loves you, we're here to love you. And whether or not you take in what we're giving out, like you can take little bits and pieces here and there, and that's fine. You don't have to believe everything we say. But yeah, I would challenge people who are afraid of the faith-based stuff or afraid of putting God behind the name to just look in or even just have a conversation with me. I mean, we're gonna be honest, and we're gonna let you know, like, yes, that's what we believe in, and there's other ways to do things as well, and some of those ways work and some of them don't. And we solely believe that the Bible has answers to most things we need in life, but there's also, I mean, the Bible also and God also gave us a wilderness, and we're gonna use that, and we're gonna go hike and maybe not even say a word. And there's a lot of healing that can be found just by spending time in nature that way. And yeah, I would challenge people, if that scares you off, just contact me or contact the organization, just see what it's really about. I think you'd be surprised of what the church really, really is, and the way that the church should act, especially with people who don't necessarily fit that godly mold that we are led to believe is like the only way that we should operate.
So it's a safe place for everybody, no matter what you believe in.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'd welcome anybody and everybody. There's really nothing in your past can keep you from coming out. I mean, you sacrificed enough for this country, so it's time that you receive some of that love back. And but yeah, we don't discriminate.
I love that. Well, one final thing before we kind of wrap up here. We can keep going or cut it a little short, but I think you really hit a good. We got all the good ingredients for this organization. I think it's amazing. If there's one story in particular, and we don't have to say their name, is there one that really stands out where you're like, man, this is what it's about. This is why we do what we do.
Yeah, I think the two, probably my first week ever helping with AWA, it was June of 2019. And like I have, before our first program, June 2019, I had no background in like ministry. I'm not a psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever you want to call it. But I knew whenever our director asked me, like, hey, like, I want you to come out and help. Okay. I soon realized, like, okay, this is my job I have to do. And if I don't do my job, these men suffer, and they don't just suffer like physically, they can suffer mentally, spiritually, and even eternally. So I'm like, all right, like, this is my job. I need to do my job. And so I remember going into it, I was just studying, and we have our curriculum. I'm going through it. And so guys finally get there, and that first night, and I mean, I'm just sitting there. I'm 24 years old, like long hair, looking like a scruff. And we're sitting in the little lodge. We're there, and there's a fire going. And man, it's first night. It's like 11 o'clock at night. And one of the guys, he's probably early mid 50s, and he just gets deep real quick. And he's telling a story of how he just couldn't do anymore. And he's in his kitchen and had his pistol, and he has his pistol, I mean, pressed all the way up against his mouth, and he has a finger on the trigger. And he said his dog jumped on him right as he's about to pull the trigger. Whenever his dog jumped on him, he looks and he sees a picture of his family. And then he's like, man, I just couldn't do it. And so, but there's no, like, I bet people have gone through like counseling classes. Like, there's no dialogue of what to say after that to like comfort. Cause like this dude just shared like where he almost like just blew his brains out, but then he didn't because of his dog. And of course, like a lot of the guys there, they weren't really ready to open up that deep, and that's all right. Like, we'll get there. But like, it got real quiet, and I told the dude, I was like, "Hey, man, like, I'm just glad you didn't have a cat." And he's like, "Why?" And I'm like, "That cat would have probably let you blow your brains out, but your dog loves you."
Jesus.
And he just like started crying. He just started cracking up about it. And he's like, "Man, I'm really glad to have a dog too." And like, I didn't necessarily know. I was just like, "Man, I have to bring humor or something to this." But like, he then started talking about his dog afterwards and how much he loved his dog. And he's like, "Yeah, my dog saved my life." And yeah, it was something that's like, man, oh yeah, as you know, like a lot of guys, they bring humor to situations where it's inappropriate, but like, that's how you deal with some stuff. And we started focusing on his dog and talking about his dog. And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I'm glad you didn't have a cat. If you had a cat, I wouldn't be able to talk to you, and we wouldn't be able to spend this time in the mountains today." And later on that week, there was another guy that we were actually just playing football, and it was like 3-on-3 or like 2-on-3 with a full-time quarterback. And there was a fumble, and like, so we all jumped on the ball, you know, like guys do. And so like, I think 3 or 4 of us on the ground were 5 for it. It was just like a 5 or 10 second scrum. And so we got up, and one of the guys, like, you could tell like he wasn't good. And we're like, "Hey," like, and you could tell like heart rate was up, and we're like, "Hey, dude, like, you good?" And he sat there, and he's like, "Man, that's the first time that like I've wrestled with a man since like 2 years prior." He had, while he was on duty, he had to shoot a guy because the guy went after him, tased him with his own taser, and had his own pistol, like, and it's still in the holster, but up to the armpit. And he's wrestling with this guy, finally gets him off, and the guy gets off, and he has to empty a clip in the guy's chest. So that's the last time that he wrestled with like a man. And the dude was into some type of, not karate, but taekwondo or something. And he had to, because of this incident, like a year or 2 ago, he had to stop doing this with his boys. And so him and his boys' relationship was suffering because every time he'd roughhouse with him, he'd go back to that spot of killing that guy. And he said, "Yeah, like, we were fighting for that ball, and like, I was getting triggered, and like, I was just ready to like hurt somebody." But he's like, "But I heard you guys laughing." And he's like, "I looked at your faces, and like, y'all are fighting and stuff, but like, y'all are just laughing and having fun." And he's like, and something just in his brain clicked. And he's like, he texted me like a week or 2 after that. And he's like, "Yeah, I went home and I could wrestle with my boys." He's like, something in my brain just, it was nothing I could do. It's nothing I could tell myself. Like, I just had to go into a situation that fought that like interaction that happened before, but saw it in like a happy light. And it was just us roughhousing and laughing. And then like, he went back to fighting and got it. And it helped his relationship with his boys too. Cause unfortunately, like, families of service members, they suffer too. And his boys were suffering because he was going through real hurt. I mean, you having to kill, having a physical altercation with someone who wants to kill you, and then having to kill them. And then he's performing first aid on the guy, trying to make sure he doesn't pass away. Like, I mean, that's coming for a full circle. And that's stuff that like, hey, we can't, that wasn't a planned deal. Like, all right, like, we're gonna force them and make them wrestle and laugh. Like, that's just stuff that comes naturally just from like, just hanging out with the dudes and like giving the time. Cause a lot of us, like, we don't have time just to go play football here and there. But up there, it's like, hey, we got 20 minutes, 30 minutes for dinner. Let's just go play football, or let's go shoot some archery. And, the stuff that happens organically up there is really incredible. And this will be my 4th year doing it. And of course, you learn a lot in 4 years, and the writing, and then just all the stories, and just understanding my own trauma, and then understanding other people's trauma, and then just listening well. We gotta listen well to other people's stories, and we got to be able to pick out the parts and see those context clues that can open up even more things. And sometimes you heal from listening, and sometimes you heal just from doing random things. And there's a lot of stories that have come from it, and it's made me think. Whenever there's something that you can do to help people, how selfish would you be to like not go and do that thing? Like, and
Right.
I now, like, before I even started, I didn't really know much about the military community per se. But now that I'm involved, I have a lot of friends who are in it. It's like, well, I love my friends and I know my friends are suffering. I know I can play a small part in helping with that suffering. And like someone you love, you're going to take care of them. And um, that's why I just, that's why I decided that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to love my friends and show them that I love their brothers and I love their sisters. And I'm going to help with that. And, but yeah, it's funny where life circumstances take you. So, but I definitely find I am a little rougher around the edges. So I fit in a little easier with the crowd.
You look like you belong out in the country.
Yeah.
Or out in the
Well,
mountains.
the hair is easier to maintain in the mountains. Once you get in the city, it's a pain in the butt. But
I got you. Well, you said we'll wrap up here in a second, but you did say that your story is a weapon, and that's why we have this podcast. It's a platform for people to share their stories because somebody needs to hear it. I can only imagine what it's like sitting around a campfire and everybody sharing their stories. And man, maybe it triggered this person, or it resonated with this person, or maybe it let this one crying, or whatever you see around that campfire. And that's what we want to do here: is have people like you on, come on, share resources, stories, and all that fun stuff. Because somebody needs to hear it. Somebody needs to know they're not alone. And the biggest police officers, first responders, man, we have a lot of pride. There's civilians. There's a lot of people with a lot of pride. It's like, man, just swallow it for a minute and just give these organizations a chance and these people a chance to breathe life into you. So I appreciate what you do. I really do.
yeah,
And I can't wait for you to get back down here to ATF here in a few weeks.
no, it'll be super rad. One of the military, all military class that's coming through, I think it starts January 25th.
Yeah, that week.
Sometime during that week. So they either some members of that class and probably some other guys, and then so they'll be first time participants with the American Warrior Association. Now I'm going to bring some guys back who are involved with the gym to come back and volunteer and help lead. So they're going to have their own program this year. We're doing it in August, and where I'm creating a completely new kind of program dynamic for them. So our goal that week, we're going to have a more physical week. The guys from the gym definitely can handle some physical stuff, and excuse me. And so the pinnacle of the week will be us climbing a 14er, which is a 14,000 foot peak in Colorado. So
I love that.
We're going to drag, carry, do whatever we got to do to get everybody up there. But it'll be a fun time. It'll be Uncompahgre Peak, and it's in the middle of the San Juans in Colorado, and it's 14,308 feet above sea level. And
bring some oxygen.
Oh yeah. But yeah, it's gonna be real cool to be able to spend some time with those guys. And then, yeah, I mean, for one, being with the American Warrior Association, and then being able to do stuff with the Adaptive Training Foundation, there's a lot of stuff that we believe in and that goes hand in hand. And being able to bring those guys up and love on them a little bit, and just get wild and go hike and like just do dude stuff. And I'm all about it. So anything I can do that, I don't know, explodes, you get some adrenaline where you're almost like any near death experience, I'm all about. And
safely, guys, safely. Disclaimer.
Luckily, I've found ways that I can make a living on that, but if I can contain that in a way to where it's somewhat sophisticated. But blind safety always is our goal. But you got to push the limits every once in a while.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that goes on that you don't tell anybody, which, I mean,
yeah,
maybe we don't want to know.
What happens up there stays up there.
Exactly.
So,
and what's set up there stays up there, I'm sure.
But yeah, it's something that for me, I think I can explain it decently, but you hear it best from the guys who have gone through it and
Yeah.
the guys who have served this country and like know that pain, and whether they felt left out from that community or felt left out from, I don't know, the VA or something, and have lacked either the energy or, to go look for resources, or just have been screwed over by resources over and over. We like to think that we can provide a service, and it just shows guys they're loved and cared for, and that there is hope. There's always hope. Like, even if you're down to your last straw, like, I mean, there's always hope. So, I mean, anybody who's listening who thinks there's no more light and they're just in the dark, like, man, no, there's, no matter how, I know my deep and dark spots I've had. I mean, it just is a minute at a time, an hour at a time, a day at a time. And you just got to get vulnerable. You got to swallow your pride, and you got to tell people, like, hey, even if you are big, bad, and tough, or if you're the most like passive person, it doesn't matter. Like, you got to tell people, like, hey, people you trust. We can't go be telling random people on the street, but like, trusted resources. Like, man, I'm vulnerable and I'm in a bad spot and I need help. And for those who need help, like, we got your back. Like, we, either if you come on a program or you just give us a phone call, I mean, just need someone to talk to, or you need someone to show up, or if you need someone to come take the pistol out of your drawer, so it's not a temptation. Like, hey, whatever you got to do, whatever steps we got to take, like, there's nothing to be embarrassed. There's nothing to be prideful about. Like, we all have a different journey, and we all experience pain in different ways. Yeah. And we got to figure out the ways that we can get better that work for us. There's no cookie cutter plan. There's nothing. Mm-hmm. How I deal with pain may work for some people, but it may be complete opposite for others. And that's one reason that we're bringing guys back and having different leaders and some volunteers there, just different perspectives. And because what I say may not resonate with some people, but the same words I say said from another source may just be what someone needed to hear. And because I for sure don't have all the answers, and I definitely don't act or say I do, but with a combined effort, and it just comes down to like good patriots coming together, loving on people. I mean, we're gonna we just want to make a little change, and hopefully that becomes that force multiplier, and hopefully guys take that home and are a change, for themselves, and then for their family, their community. But at the end of the day, you got to look out for yourself first. You got to put the oxygen mask on yourself before you go and help people. Because if we help people too much and we don't look after ourselves, we're just going to drain. And and it's just it just doesn't get good. And that's where we lose hope and just dig ourselves in these pits. And but yeah, it's just something that I tell people, if you ever need anything, you just need to talk. I mean, we're there. I mean, talk to me or talk to Pam or anybody else, or go talk to someone on the bus. And even if they're not listening, just whenever you vocalize that hurt, that pain, a lot of times you realize it's not as bad as you thought it was. And that's step one. You still got a lot to go, but just vocalizing it, win that first battle, and then go from there. But vocalize that stuff. And that's the first. You got to win one battle at a time. You can't win the war in one battle. So, but I just tell people, man, there's always hope. I don't give up.
Yeah, you got to acknowledge what's not working for you, you know?
Yeah.
Easier said than done, because like I said, it's not.
Oh, yeah.
It's nerve-wracking. I mean, I've been there where I've almost puked just because I needed to get something out, and it literally got stuck in my throat.
Yeah.
But man, once I got it out, it's freeing, man.
It's a great feeling once that stuff comes out. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, I've had to do it plenty of times in my life. Whenever it comes out, you're just like, man, like, I don't know how I was living before. Like and you just got that release, and it's easy to do it in the mountains, but then we also got to learn stuff back home that we can do it back home, whether it be just going, like for me, it's going and running. I've picked up running lately.
I see that. You're looking mighty trim there.
Yeah. I I ran a half marathon in December, and I'm training for a full in February. And
What convert you on?
I'll be DV's running the Leadville 100 in August and asked me to pace for him. So I was like, well, I better get on this whole running thing. So I'll pace for him up here in Colorado. And but yeah, so I've was 5-6 days ago I knocked out 20 miles and building up to the 26. And yeah, it's fun. It hurts. It's not fun in the moment, but running for 3 hours ain't exactly sexy. But
neither is pooping your pants and peeing on yourself. Which
no,
let's not even talk about that, because you're gonna ruin your looks for me. You're gonna totally ruin it for me.
That stuff stays on the mountain. You don't gotta worry about that.
Oh God. Well, real quick, where can people find you? Where can people find the organization, websites, phone numbers, all that good stuff?
Yeah. So search American Warrior Association or AmericanWarriorAssociation.org. And we are doing some revamping the website. So there may be some construction here and there, but I know come like February, March, it'll be fully operational. Right now we have opened up our 2022 application. So anyone who is interested in any way in our men's, women's, family, and we're actually starting a young man program this year. Anyone's interested in that, the applications are online. And then so that's AmericanWarriorAssociation.org. And then my contact is just Jason, Jason at AmericanWarriorAssociation.org. And if I can't answer your questions, I'll find someone who can. But I have access to my email all the time. So I mean, any day or night, I'm there. And I'm more than happy if we don't have a solution, or if we can't help fix it, we'll figure out what that solution, either through people or another organization, is, and we'll help you go on your way that way and support you along that way too.
I love it. You know what I love most about all of this? I'm going to be with you in the class from Military to the Mountains.
Heck yeah.
I'll be a support trainer, and so that means I get to see you. And and I hope you guys can take me hunting, because I really want to experience the start to finish process, if you will. But
we can do it. Yes, ma'am.
I'm super stoked to have you back here in Texas, because I mean, everyone loves to move here. And it's good to see good people are moving here.
It'll be nice to have a home base, especially up in that area. So yeah, a lot of good things up there, and a lot of good people, and I'm excited to be up there and call it home. I
need another. I've got a lot of good workout partners right now, but I can't wait to get a nice little ass kicking with you.
We'll get after it. We'll make you a long distance runner yet.
Oh no. No, I will cheer you on in a golf cart. You want a pace runner? How about a pace driver? Let's go.
That would help. Yeah, I mean, just chase the golf cart, put like a donut on the back, and I'm at it.
Right, it's like chasing the carrot.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no, my running days are over. I used to hate running when I was active duty. I hated it. Mm-hmm. I hated it. Jillian Michael says I'd rather stick needles in my eyeballs than run. And
well,
I
hate it right now, so I understand that.
Good God. Well, you stay healthy. Stay healthy. But thanks for being on today. Super
Yes, cool. Ma'am. It's my pleasure. My pleasure.
Every time you call me ma'am, I feel like I aged 10 years, so stop it.
Well, if I don't, I'll die quickly because my mom will come beat me up. So it's a trade-off.
You're a good man. Good man right there. Well, hang tight. I'm going to say goodbye to my listeners, and we will do all the fun stuff after we get off. Cool?
Cool.
All right, guys. Well, there you have it. That was Jason, a.k.a. David Vabora Jr., a.k.a. Thorges Jr., and all that good stuff. No, but that was Jason with the American Warrior Association. Great guy. Great organization. You know where to find them. He just told you. So go check them out. Like, subscribe, do everything for this video. We can't make it without you. So help us out. Hook a sister up. Hook a brother up. and we'll see you soon. Get ready for our next episode because we got a cool one coming. Peace.